I can walk into a salon and spend 3 months in that salon, and I guarantee you that that productivity of that salon will increase by 300%.
You know, I never said to myself, I'm going to create a brand, but in fact, I was thinking that, not knowing it was a brand. I was thinking that because from day one, I wanted to create a better atmosphere than the salon. I didn't like salons.
I think, you know, hairdressing, you can earn a lot of money. You can earn a lot of money. I mean, it depends where you take it. If you take it to, you know, owning your own business, or what do you reckon?
From the moment they picked up their first pair of shears, Horst Rechelbacher, Frederic Fekkai, and Anthony Mascolo had lofty aspirations. Almost magically, walking into the salon gave them clarity, vision, and direction. What they all saw was an amazing opportunity to go beyond just simply cutting and styling hair. Before them was the chance to change hairdressing into something bigger and better than could ever be imagined. Fueled by a relentless desire to succeed, they began developing better schools and educational programs for hairdressers. They searched for styling products that delivered incredible results. They built fabulous salons in fashion capitals round the globe. They led trend-setting photo shoots, platform events, advertising campaigns, and so much more. These three hairdressing giants each created an empire.
Across the street from where I lived in Klagenfurt, Austria, was a hairdressing salon. And they were good friends of my parents. And I literally looked from our bedroom into the salon. So when I went to school in Austria, had a system where the teacher recommended, they were very interactive with the students. And since I was a terrible student, my teacher thought I ought to take a trade rather than being an intellect. That he thought that I should choose a trade. So the trade I chose was hairdressing because it was in front of me.
At an early age, I decided to go to Les Beaux-Arts in Paris, which is a famous school for artists. And I was very interested about, not necessarily to be a painter or a sculptor, but you know, I was interested by design, by shape, by everything, by the whole world of fine arts. And my father didn't agree and didn't like the idea. And he said to me, you know, artists make money when they die. So I went to law school just to please him, and you know, because that's what he wanted me to do.
My father's from Pompeii, in an area called Scafati, which is near Naples. And what he used to have was a couple of salons down there, and he was really talented. It came naturally to him. So it was very easy for him to do hairdressing. And I think he won some competitions around the area, and part of the prize was to go to London, so he ended up going to London and then never went back.
My father, he was a shoemaker, and he had a little shoe business. And my mother was a herbalist, so she really didn't care. My mother never really was worried what I should be, so long as I was sort of into it. And hairdressing, I got into it. I mean, I was doing hair before I even became an apprentice. I was already doing my friend's hair, and so hairdressing was like the thing for me to do. It's like I was born to be a hairdresser, I think.
At law school, I was fortunate one day to meet a person that was doing hair and makeup on photo shoot. And she was quite famous in France, and she introduced me to that world. And I became very interested on looking at what she was doing, fascinated by what she was doing. And started to help her on the side. And one day I just quit the whole law school idea and went to this industry, which infuriated my father, obviously.
At the very beginning, my father used to, you know, he always used to say, ah, look, Anthony can do it, and, you know, he used to kind of tease my older brothers, because I was the baby, so, you know, I was always spoilt. I didn't really kind of feel, oh, I've got to be as good as this or as good as that, because at the time it was really just a job, you know, and it was a way of earning my, you know, 10 quid a week. And being able to go out because I had some money.
I went to school, get my diploma, and worked in a salon just to know how it was, and loved the salon, but I wanted to do more than that and to learn how to do more on both areas, the salon and the freelance world. I loved it very much.
You know, I won the first junior championship after I was a three-month apprentice, which taught me that I could win and changed my life, literally changed my life. I became winning addict. I had to compete. And I worked every free moment I had. I was practicing hairdressing on models all the time. Sundays, Mondays, every free moment I had. I totally became hairdressing addict. Working in Germany, #1 hairdresser in the salon at Frederic, doing 45 clients every day, I was making 150 D-Mark a week. So that was amazing. It was amazing. But that was the game. So we all did it.
1963, my two older brothers, Tony and Guy, which are called Giuseppe and Gaetano, opened a salon. They went to work for this guy in Clapham. The guy said to him, look, you know, instead of you working for me, just pay me a rent and you can have the shop. It's pretty much what happened. So they did the deal and they ended up with a shop called Tony and Guy. In '66, Bruno joined and he went to Morris School of Hairdressing because he wanted to learn quicker. So he went there and he learnt there, and then he started working with Tony and Guy. And then they opened another shop in Streatham. So they had two shops, Tony and Guy in Clapham, Tony and Guy in Streatham.
So how does one go about building an empire? Every journey begins with a single step. For most, that initial walk is characterized by uncertainty and trepidation. Not so for Horst, Frederic, and Anthony. Even as young apprentices studying in Europe, they knew where they wanted to go, who they wanted to be, and more importantly, they weren't about to let anyone get in the way of their dreams. Even if it meant packing up everything and moving to Paris, London, or New York, they packed their bags and caught a plane. They were always in search of a new idea or fresh approach that would redefine hairdressing and the fashion scene.
When I started in '75, '74, they then bought a shop in Davis Street. It was literally the year that I started.
So I moved from Aix-en-Provence to Paris. I was 20 years old at the time, 21 maybe. Started again from scratch there because I didn't know anybody and worked. I was very fortunate to work in a salon called Bruno Desange, Bruno Pittini, who was a legend in France in hair. To create clientele, to create contacts was a very, very difficult point. If you have a passion, if you know what you do, and if you want to really get something going for you, you know, it doesn't matter. You just go on and things come to you.
I was almost on the edge of burning out because doing so many clients a day, and then when all the clients, you know, remember we started at 6 in the morning, Fridays and Saturdays, and we worked until about 8, 9 o'clock in the evenings, every day. And then you have a little something to eat, and then you go practice on models until midnight. And then you're back at work again at 6. And so I was always on the edge of burnout. That's why one time I just packed up my stuff and I went to England. I worked in England with a guy for a year, training him for competition. And then I used to go to Paris competition, and he came second, I came first, and he got so jealous because he had to pay me all that money. And I still was, you know, so then I left England because of that. It was like a family feud. First time I came here, 63. Made lots of cash, you know, no taxes. It was just like I came back to Europe, and then I was like, you know, for the first time in my life, I had a lot of money in my pocket, so I could go to the same places where my customers went, because I always had rich customers. But I never had the money what my customers had. And I actually, first time I had money in my pocket. So, and I spent it all. I spent it all in 3 months. Yeah, and then I had to come back to America, because here, America is where the money is. And I managed to come back, and indeed, I just made I used to make $500 a day. That was good. That was good money. Imagine 150 D-mark a week to $500 a day. It was like I was rich. So I bought a Jaguar XKE, and instead of flying, I wanted to drive around, see America, sell the car, go back to Europe, and be a jet set hairdresser. Because I always want to be a jet set hairdresser.
Being in the suburbs, it wasn't really possible, so I had to kind of move into the West End. So once you got to the West End, then it became interesting. You know, it was a different kind of thing there. Bruno, you know, was focusing, even though Tony and Guy started the business and were the backbone of the business. Bruno was the one who really kind of had a vision of taking it and making it more trendy, and, you know, being one of the kind of top hairdressers, or had that vision. And we were all in kind of, you know, being trained by Bruno pretty much, and Guy and Tony. And in those days, it just started to develop like a training program. So the challenges was to be good, you know, and to be picked to go on, you know, shoots, and to do, you know, assist at the seminars.
Once you open the door, people are really welcoming you and really get you embrace what you do. They help you, they support what you do, and the demand becomes greater. In Paris, once you start to be successful, the phone rings non-stop, and you really have incredible demand, incredible requests for jobs everywhere. I always wanted to be moving and looking around internationally. I always had in mind that I didn't want to be a local guy, whether it was London, Paris, or New York. And I always thought about globally, internationally. I don't want to sound like a corporation, but my vision was not about just doing the Parisian woman or the French lady. I wanted to do looks that will correspond to everybody, and I wanted to see the world. More importantly, I wanted to get inspiration from everywhere, not just an area.
Then I came to Minneapolis, and I crashed a car. I crashed a Jaguar. A drunk driver hit us from behind, and here I was in Minneapolis, $3,000 cash in my pocket. And the police found $3,000. I thought I was a drug dealer, you know, because who has $3,000 in their pocket? And I had no insurance, no visa, except a visitor visa. So I came out of the hospital, I broke vertebrae, I was owed the hospital $15,000. So that was my crisis. So I had no choice. I went to work in the #1 salon. Luckily, I gave seminar in that salon before the accident, so I had some local connections. And I came out, worked for 3 months in this one shop. One rich client, she was a banker, said, "Why are you working here? Open your own shop." Because at that time I was doing a lot of updos. They had to know how to do sections and backcomb. So all I did is just the arranging of the updos. I didn't spend time to do the sectioning, because I had like 4 or 5 patterns, which were everybody wanted, the Farah Diva look. That was before Vidal hit with his geometric look. It was right before that. Actually, it was pretty much the same time. I took my 3 assistants, I had 3 at that time, and opened my little shop in the basement. got it for nothing. The woman backed me, and I started my own salon.
We then were very Italian, and my brothers used to go back and forth to Italy, and had a very different way of finishing hair. You know, you could get a fuzzy head of hair and make it look straight, which, you know, the Sassoon way, you couldn't do that. If you had a fuzzy head of hair, you cut it so it looked fuzzy. So we had the opportunity to grab a different market.
And so when Jacques Desange and Bruno decided to open a place in the States, in New York, they asked for candidature, and I presented mine. And I was very happy to be a candidate, and they accepted my candidature. And from there, I jumped in. It was in 1983, November 1983, and it's been fantastic for me.
Trevor Sorby then worked for us for a year. It wasn't that long, it wasn't there too long. Robert had been with us, for, not in those days, but had come to work in our salon for a little bit because he used to be a session worker doing his stuff, so he needed somewhere to do his clients. We were at Salon International. It was the days of Renato, and he gave everybody the opportunity to become creative. That gave everyone the platform of what do you do to be creative. He said, look, the guys have pulled out, there's a slot, go on. And we went on, we ended up with 1 or 2 people watching, everybody walking out, because we didn't know what it was all about anyway. But the following year, we decided, okay, we'll do this. And they got us to do it, and we started to do shows. I mean, you do pictures, you put them together, and then you have staff, and the more staff you have, you know, the more places you need for them to work. Then we had a school, and we opened the school because people wanted to know our techniques. So we thought, well, you know, it's money, isn't it? That's what we're doing here, isn't it? It's making money. So we started to do the school, and slowly it started to develop, and then I think it was the standards that we had. And we were very fortunate, 4 brothers, and everybody did something different. Bruno was doing the creative, then moved into the PR, and then had the vision of where we were going to, you know, have. He used to go to Paris. I remember him going to Paris because that was more his inspiration than anywhere. And you'd see Jean-Louis David, Jacques Desange, and they would have everybody in white, and there would be 1,000 clients, and it was all discipline. It was really, you know, he was very impressed with it. So we started to interpret that in what we were doing.
It's hard to imagine today, in a world where everything is seemingly marketed to the masses, how important branding was to the salon industry's growth. Nor can we underestimate these 3 empire makers' contribution to branding. Frederic Fekkai was determined not to let hairdressing become a mere commodity item. Horst Rechelbacher envisioned beauty products that impacted the body holistically, not just on the surface. Anthony Mascolo's cutting-edge looks and imagery continuously pushed the boundaries of fashion. Their inherent sense of style opened eyes, unlocked doors, and forever changed the image of hairdressing as we know it.
Hairdresser always had seen their services, or their business, I should say, like a service business, and more like accommodating or responding to a demand. I was the first one to introduce not only the high price, but for a good reason. The whole mood, the atmosphere of a salon changed. I would train people in different compartments, you know, treatment, styling, coloring, cutting. So everything was really focused on every area. Answering the phone, customer service, all this to really create a brand and not just a salon.
Well, I was making products because my mother used to come every year to visit, and she always yelled the smell in the shops. She said, this is not healthy. You are going to get sick because you're weak, because I was always a weak child. So my mother always had to remedy me with herbs, so she was like always worried about me, my constitution and all that. And I did get sick in my 60s. When mother came, I was also taking a lot of amphetamine. speed, diet pills, you know. That was my drug of the 60s, diet pills. I never took any cocaine and never was interested in that. You know, in the 70s, I was already thinking about environmentalism. And of course, it also spells out clearly that if nature is sick, if you live in nature which is sick, polluted, toxic, you will get sick by it. My mother, and then I brought Indian guys, herbalists from India. And then, you know, in the early 70s, we were making it. And then instead of making Aveda, a Horst product, I switched it all over and came up with the word Aveda, which we actually start distributing in 78. A in Sanskrit means all, and Veda is knowledge. So it's the book of knowledge. Ayurvedic medicine, it's an interesting system of self-healing. The principle of Ayurvedic medicine is brilliant. And I think it's probably, the principle itself could save this planet. Because it doesn't address with the symptom. If a person is sick, in Ayurveda, you don't treat the symptoms, like in allopathic medicine. Modern medicine, you treat the symptoms. In Ayurvedic, you treat the cause of the symptoms.
You know, I never said to myself, I'm going to create a brand, but in fact, I was thinking that. This is actually very instructive for, don't become a hairdresser, don't become a hair salon, become something else. And energize your business, do it different. You know, today everything changed, restaurant, hotels, you know, they always have new thing happening, you know. Everything changed, so it's important the salon industry change. To me, the whole concept is about the most natural and the most simple is the most beautiful. Everything I do needs to be a product or a service that people can understand, can do themselves, and can reproduce themselves. That's for the hair care. For cosmetic, I do not like, personally, women with too much makeup. And my philosophy is not about to show your, it's not about showing your makeup, but it's about showing your beauty. So I need to create product that will goes into your skin, that will enhance your features, that shows what the makeup should be for. I want to come up with some great colors that are timeless, but however, I'm proud to have on a woman.
And then in the 80s, you had an explosion of, you know, lots of creativity, like we were talking about earlier, Trevor and, you know, all the different people, all the different looks. And we were in a situation where we were just one of everybody, you know, we were one of the people, one of the teams. And it was all down to do it with the image, you know, with the photographs and how people perceive you. You know, the product line started in the 80s. You know, when we did the tour with Renato, we used to do all this weaving and, you know, plaits and, you know, it was and everything was gelled. So we used to use Roger Gallet gel and KY jelly, you know, to get the hair slick and jellified. So it would really look like a piece of sculpture. You know, that's what it was about then. And it went worse and worse, didn't it? Then it never looked like bloody hair again, you know? And it didn't, you know, with people like Robert, Trevor and myself, I think we really took it to town. You know, it was ridiculous, but fantastic. So we needed a product, so we made Tigi gel.
When I started traveling, like, you know, looking for formulas, the first time I was invited to go to Brazil, to the Earth Summit, by Global Forum with Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, all these so-called spiritual leaders, together with the senator at that time, Al Gore, and people like Carl Sagan and great minds, all got together and had a dialogue how to save the planet, and everybody spoke. And the last speaker was a shaman from the forest of Brazil. And he said, he brought his spirits, who are his teachers, from the forest with him. And in fact, they wrote the speech. What he's saying is the spirit, language, and he's just a translator. And the spirits had told him to say that the previous speakers didn't know what they're talking about. So I went to the forest and I hung out with people like him, shamans. So I studied that, and that's how we end up, you know, getting the color of the lipstick, the uruku, which grows. It's a beautiful red dye which they put on their bodies, and you know, we went and we didn't want to. We were already learning the environmental game, you know, how to create a company which is truly sustainable. It's a very difficult thing to do, but we're doing it.
I opened my first salon in Bergdorf Goodman down the street on 5th Avenue and 57th Street in March 1989. And then moved from there in 1996, January 1996 to 15 East 57th Street above the Chanel store. Chanel and I formed a joint venture in 1995 to develop Frederic Fekkai as a brand, as a global brand. So today they are an essential partner to me. Chanel is not to be confused with just the clothes. It's Chanel, the holding company. So Chanel Inc. is the partner, and that's a financial group. This is a holding parent company.
What tended to happen then is that we had really a lot of people that wanted, you know, that were part of the team. It was growing and growing, but you know, there was no room. You know, Bruno had moved to America at that early 80s, in 82, 83. He went and lived there. So we were duplicating what was happening over there, over here. You know, so he was putting into practice these things that he had always believed, you know, like Jean-Louis David and the white and this and, you know, all the corporate and customer service. He loved all that. It was slow. But if you look at it now, then you think, bloody hell, how the hell did you get there? But it's like, you know, it's like anything. If you work a little bit at the time, after a year, it's massive. For us, it was all about team. I think you don't worry about yourself when you're good or you feel you're good. You say, right, I've done that, I've got to move on. And you've got to move on. If you do the same thing forever, you're gonna get there and you're gonna go down. Simple as that. It doesn't matter who you are, how talented you are. You've got to do a bit, you've got to sidestep, and you've got to do your next step. You've got about 7 years, real full concentration in one area. Then you've got to move on. It might be a slight move, it might be adding to it, but you've got to do something. You can't do the same. And that's something it's part of something that I felt, and you know, my brother used to tell me this stuff, so it kind of sinks in. If it be true or not, you know, I felt it was. So the photography allowed me to move over and push the team. Doing these kind of things, then doing artwork, then doing corporate image, advertising, moving, you know, marketing, you start to place yourself. Then being, you know, basically what you are is a leader, a communicator, making everybody comfortable and happy and putting them in the right position, using people for their talents and, you know, making them feel you're using them for their talents, because that's what it's about.
What makes companies different is the people. But people need to be led. So you need to have leadership. And if you're in a leadership role, you have to be there. You have to be there. Because if you stop leading, it changes. It turns into something else.
One salon turns into 4, then 40, then 80, and so on. On the same Monday, you discover you're booked for a hair show in London and a photo shoot in Paris. A product line that once was just a few shampoos and styling products has grown to hundreds of exclusive items. Your empire no longer stretches just across a country. It reaches across continents. Not only has your company moved to the next level, so must you. What do you do when your empire's grasp has grown beyond your own reach?
But we also had a great problem, which was that we had a lot of hairdressers, and these people want to be like you. They want to do what we're doing. You know, not everybody wants to work for someone. We want to work for ourselves. So to have someone who says, well, I'd like to have my own business, the immediate thing is, oh, all right, well, you're not going to be part of us. That was, years ago, what would happen. You know, you had to be loyal and stay and whatever. But you know, putting in the franchise program was really a twofold thing. It was a situation to open the door to say we can grow our business and you can become an entrepreneur. 2 led to 4 and 4 led to 8, and it's just multiplied.
I was burning out as a corporate leader. My children said, "Dad, the company is becoming like your enemy. It's consuming you." Because my children are and the woman you live with are the ones who give you the truth. Not too many people around you give you the truth because they are not strong enough to tell you, except the ones who really care about you.
It could take you to the rainforests of South America to converse with a shaman, the offices of a world-class fashion retailer like Bergdorf Goodman, or maybe just the company of 3 famous hairdressing brothers. Inspiration, taste, and fashion are all moving targets. If you stand still, you'll never catch them. Even worse, they'll pass you by. Horst, Anthony, and Frederic are never at rest.
Taste, it's a very fascinating thing for me because, you know, it's something that I don't take it lightly. I love good taste, and whatever good taste is, you know. To me, it's a good taste is about putting together, having some thought of what you're wearing, or what you should have, or what you should carry, what you should, how you should stand, how you should talk, how you treat your friend, your family, everybody. So, taste, yes, it is. It's not something that I just got, but it's something that I work at every day.
Creativity isn't just doing a hairstyle. Creativity is really seeing where you can take what you do, you know, and marketing and, you know, and vision, photography, and, you know, doing a hairstyle, having balance is you do it in hair, but you've got to have that balance in everything, if it be graphics or doing a video or whatever. So it's taste. Taste is probably the word. That in turn, you know, helps you to create whatever you want. But I think that, you know, that isn't just, you know, the creative element of hair. When I started taking pictures, then, you know, I didn't really know how to do them, but when you don't know something, you don't worry about it. So the rules were different. So we just took them and just made it happen to whatever you wanted, you know, and I think that was the turning point for us.
My inspiration comes mostly from the street, you know, in different areas, different places, and also, funny enough, from cartoons. I love cartoons, and because they are completely insane, all the hairstyle that you see, it just gives me a great influence and to help and create style. But more importantly, and that is really the major thing, today, all the style that I created are based out of the shape of a face and the attitude and the look. I treat people like caricatures. I don't want anybody to look perfect or to try to be stereotype, but to have a signature or look that looks very flattering or very happy, very sexy or very efficient, whatever it is, but that works for every individual, not just a stereotype.
Today I look at more of the fashion because I think it's very inspirational, because that's really what, you know, you've got to do the hair too. You've got to see what's going on with fashion, and I think it's an extension of what, you know, it's all about. I think hairdressing is, you know, an accessory to fashion. So I mean, you choose the bits you like, and that influences you in how you do hair, and it kind of puts you where you think your taste lies. You know, and it can range, you know, from Gucci to, you know, Dolce & Gabbana, or to punk stuff from London, you know, it's completely different, but, you know, if you do it with taste, it's all nice. But fashion's probably the one of the most important elements.
If fashion pollutes, then it ought to be re-examined, because then it's outdated. Because the purpose of fashion is to stimulate the mind to feel good. But what are the materials we're using to do that? That is of importance to me today.
Fashion is something that I see as a short term. Sense of style is timeless.
You gotta watch the street. You gotta watch the past. You know, Coco Chanel said something very profound, I think, that if those people who claim that they're getting inspiration from within themselves, not from the streets, they're basically not telling you the truth.
I was burned out many times, and it's really a matter of, again, challenging, creating, getting information, be interested about what you do. No matter what you do in life, you get burned out.
Well, I use the word fear as a positive, because fear is a teacher.
Emptiness, or not being able to control my schedule, my life.
Been stressed, and I do get stressed with things when I get a lot of stuff to do, but I haven't so far been burnt out. I still carry on doing it, year in, year out. Close.
And I think with me, it's always been fear-driven, fear of not being able to be good enough, fear of not being able to survive the way I want to, fear of not being able to live the way. I actually been really fear-driven most of my life. I heard a Harvard professor analyzing the beauty industry, and he said it in a very funny way. He said, the beauty industry is a cow, according to him, who has never been milked before. And I agree with him, because I think that our industry is now beginning to realize our full potential.
About those three boys whose dreams we shared with you at the beginning? Did they build those empires they had dreamt about? Well, today, Frederic Fekkai is charging up to $600 for a haircut. Clients have to book months in advance to get an appointment at one of his ultra-luxurious salons. And those clients have names like Ashley Judd, Heidi Klum, and Jessica Lange, to name just a few. Anthony Mascolo's Tony and Guy salons now numbers some 400 around the world. But he's not stopping there. He'd like the number to hit 500 in the United States alone. And what about Horst Rechelbacher? In 1976, when he launched Aveda, very few people understood or appreciated his knowledge of plants and plant engineering, especially when you consider Estee Lauder bought Aveda for $300 million in 1997. While these numbers and names sound impressive, these three men were never driven by fame or money. What drove them was one simple idea: to create beautiful hair better than anyone else. That is how you build an empire.
Because I always used to say at work, we don't have problems. We have great opportunities. So let's get together and figure out where they are and what do we need to do as a group to make a difference.
Don't become just a hairdresser. That's the perception starting already. If you do that, you're gonna fail, because who needs another hairdresser? And a hairdresser is obviously has bad histories, especially in this country. So it's important to think different way, and to be more somebody who has implement great style with hair, with makeup, with clothes, whatever it is, something that really gives you great excitement, and also a better income, and certainly also a better authority.
So you're not just a hair cutter, you are also a nurturing person. You give somebody a stress relieving treatment, which sends this person into a state of bliss. And when you're giving it, you're in the same state of bliss. That's a rejuvenating moment for yourself.
Hairdressing's part of life, you know. Whatever job you choose, if it be hairdressing, it's a lucky one. You see, I believe people need education and motivation. You know, so if someone's not happy and leaving, it's because they're not learning anything. They're fed up with what they're doing. And that is life all the way through.
Because if you and I become earth conscious, we become customers conscious. We become conscious of everything which is part of our life. It's raising your own consciousness by studying consciousness. And consciousness is life. And life is intelligence. And all life is sacred. That's the real beauty. It's sacred. The right haircut can heal an emotional state, can do wonders, but it can also put a person into a deep state of depression. Deep state. And I've seen it. I've seen it myself doing it. I've seen it staff doing it. I've seen students at the beauty school doing it, where clients have gone through such an agony just because they got a haircut, not of their own design, where they actually became a victim of somebody who wanted to create something for themselves, which they thought it was the thing to do in the moment.
A talented hairdresser is not just somebody who cuts hair well, who does color very well. A talented person is somebody who has a great compilation of different areas like beauty, fashions, lifestyle, understanding, being a little bit more psychologist. I mean, it's a whole combination. It's somebody who is also great in life, who knows how to treat an assistant, to treat his colleagues, to work with an administration, to work with the government, I mean, to anything. It's not just about the craft itself, it's about a whole thing. It's how to be a great human first.
I don't believe necessarily in talent, because talent is, I think there is something called more important than talent, and that's desire. Because if the desire is there, the talent is there.
Because people do hairdressing because they think they're artists. They are artists, and not all of them. Some want to do it because it gives them money, but some, really want to express themselves. You've got to do that. You've got to allow that door to be opened and whatever. And people, when they're hungry, when they're really keen, you're really good. Doesn't matter how great you are, if you don't have that hunger, you're not going to be brilliant. The ones that are really brilliant, the ones that just want it more than anything else, you know what I mean? And after a while, you lose that, unfortunately. But if you move over, you can let other people have it, and you can bring it out of them. And it's great to see, I mean, we've got a lot of people that are hungry like that. It's fantastic because you've inspired it to happen.
You can work on the material called hair, which is, can be changed in it's such a great material. But the most important thing is, it is attached to a human being. So, what I learned, most of it is how to be respectful of the person who is actually owning it. Because there was a period where I was more important in me than the client. And that's where the client comes in, teaches you, ho. It's not about you, it's about me. And ultimately, if you can make the client happy, the hairdresser is happy. Because it only takes one client. Because when I used to work the chair, and I may have a great day, but I had one client who didn't like what I did, it ruined my day. We cannot separate ourselves from nature. Like, I cannot separate myself from the nature of my clients.
You mustn't forget, all we do is really hair, and the products are for hair. So as much as you want to make it a big corporation or whatever, it still is that. So if you keep that in mind, it becomes, it's a bit more fun, a bit more humorous. to keep it going, and it's enjoyable. You know, and it is fun. You know, you might have been told by your parole, what was it, not parole officer, what do you call it?
High school career counsellor.
A school career counsellor. You might as well have been a parole officer. You know, that it's no good to be a hairdresser, you know. But if you show them what it's about, then you can entice people into doing it. You know, where they say a lot of young people aren't getting involved, we need to recruit. It's our industry. You know, I mean, why do you want someone else to recruit them for us?
It starts with hairs and ends up who knows where. So I think hairdressers have the greatest potentiality. It's just the realization of it is amazing and endless.
Discipline and appreciation to what's going on. You know, I think we're very fortunate. We've done really well. You know, and you've got to think of the circumstances. You know, you're very lucky. You know, we've got a family that's stayed together through hardship, obviously, because when I was 5, my mother died, so it made everybody stay together because they had to look after us. But you're learning something all the time. You're learning your values and what you want to do, and you want to try and balance it. You know, we do end up being big kids that just want to keep working because we've got to do something. But if you can balance your life with work and your family, and you know, then it's good and you learn from it.
To me, I think what saved me and really what really made me who I am, it's very simple. I'm very curious. I'm just a very curious person. I ask questions. I'm almost at the edge of being nosy, you know? I mean, it's very important, but it is because I want to know. And if you want to know, you become. That's all. If you want to know, you become. That's my life.
And you know, you don't care about myself anymore, but it's about the future generation, because we are the future generations. Indigenous people have a wonderful way of putting it. Earth doesn't belong to us, we belong to it.